afternoon and welcome to Tuesday on Bad Dog Comedy TV, live on YouTube and Quarantea with your host, Tamara Shevon.
Yes, y'all. Oh my gosh, it is the season finale of Quarantea. This is crazy. I'm super excited because we have the best guest. Honestly, all of the guests have been great, but this is like we're gonna be reading people, we're gonna be dragging people, we're gonna be spilling that tea, y'all. I'm super excited. But like, first and foremost, you know, Quarantea's been running for a full 6 weeks now. This is the 6th week. We've appreciated all the support and all the views and all the awesome comments. Please donate to the show. Please donate to the show. It's Black History Month. It's like almost a hate crime. So please, please donate to the show. baddogtheater.com/quarantea. Throw us a little coin. To make shows like this happen again, to make Quarantea come back and then another season. It's going to be super fun to have this like all the time. You know what I mean? Let's do this. So anything over $3, you get a tax receipt for. It's tax season soon. You can feel like you did something good for the Black community. Okay. And for Bad Dog Theater. Okay. But let's get into it. We have the hostess with the mostest, which is me, with the queen of Bad Dog right now. Please give it up for Coko Galore, everyone.
Yo, what's up?
What up? Look at us.
God. I know. Did we color coordinate because Black girls invented yellow? Yes, we did.
Yeah, we are definitely matching on purpose. We're matching on purpose. It's one of those things. It's like an instinct being like, yo, are you wearing yellow and purple? It's like, yo, are we doing the opposite color wheel, but the contrast coordination? Yes, we are.
Yes, it's all about web accessibility, baby.
I'm so excited for this because, first of all,
me too.
I'm having a drink for the ending of Quarantea just to be like, oh my gosh, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking the black liqueur, Hennessy.
Okay.
And I just want to tell everybody how gangster I am, that I'm drinking it with silver or metal glass, like metal ice cubes. So this is straight. This is straight liquor. There's no watered down business.
Okay, and I have a different salary, so I have just regular ice cubes. I want the ice cube tip, okay? So here we are.
For the record, I've had these cubes before I was AD Bad Dog.
Okay. So you're drinking Hennessy. I'm drinking some Crown. Woo! I'm drinking Crown for the Queen. You know what it is?
Ooh, yum. Thanks.
But today we are going to be doing a topic that I'm super excited about. It's called Run That Back. Run that back selector. Which is in this case, Seann Murray. So Run That Back is just basically going over a lot of things that have been appropriated from Black culture. And it's like, yeah, it's been taken. People have run with it. And we want them to run that back to where it belongs, where it started.
Yeah. Okay, I just want everybody to know that usually we know the topics. I don't know the topics because I was like, you know, I know a lot of things as AD Bad Dog. I would like to be surprised once in a while. So these questions are a complete surprise to me. I just need to be clear about that.
Complete surprise. And a surprise it will be because they are heavy, deep, aggressive questions.
Listen, I'm ready for this tea. Hold on. Let me make sure my hands are not ashy.
Do you know what I'm saying? Get that lotion on and get ready to
get that lotion on because we know it's gonna, you know, when we need to drag people, the hands are gonna come out. So let me make sure my hands are not ashy.
I even put on a ring for you. Okay.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
I love this. I got rings.
You got rings? Okay. Oh, you putting one on? Okay. Yo.
I am. Let's do this. Oh, you can see. Oh, you can see them. You can see them. Okay.
All right.
They're my favorite rings, which are called hammered rings. I don't know if y'all can
let's see
it, but they're called hammered rings. Like it's so thin. Okay, just Seann Murray just baiting out my very grown out acrylic nail set.
Yo, I can't like, so I used to wear rings, and I'll say this really quickly before we start, but I used to wear rings all the time. I had a double ring and they got stuck to my fingers in China when I lived there, and I had to get them surgically removed. Like I had to get them cut off in a hospital because I was going to fly like 2 days later. They're like, if you fly with your rings like this and your hand is swollen, you might lose your finger. So wearing a ring right now is huge.
Wow, that's serious. You know, I just need to say, okay, this is a Ivy Park, Beyonce, obviously, and I really, this is making me feel like I really need to start doing some push-ups because my shoulders are like rounded. I need to, you know.
It's just how you sit. Like right now, it looks like I lost 5 pounds, but right now it looks like I haven't. You know what I mean? It's all in the posture. It's like the angles for like when you're taking a selfie, except it's like the angles of the webcam.
That's right. You know, I learned this from one Miss Ann Cornell when I was watching a small clip of the baking show that she is hosting, and this is not even about baking. She was asking Alan Shane Lewis, who is a comedian, and she was like, "Hey, take a picture from above. It's very obvious you don't have a round face."
Yeah, you got to do it from above.
Yeah, because Alan has angles, right? Alan has angles. But you know, us with round faces, even I didn't know that. So I was like, wow, okay. And it's funny. You learn a selfie tip from a baking show from one Miss Ann Cornell. It's amazing.
I learned that, and then Drake caught on, put it in a song. I was like, now we all looking like catfishes. Like it's a whole thing. Gotta hit them angles. That's what he's talking about.
Oh, okay. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. All right, question number 1. Let's start dragging.
Okay, let's start dragging.
How do you feel about the evolution of it being cool to be Thicke? How has this affected the Black community?
I have so much to say.
Bro.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Myself, I'm not super thick. Like, you know what I mean? I'm thick enough, but I'm not super thick. I'm not like, I'm thick with one C. That's how I am. Right. And the thing is, I know growing up that it was like white people were dragging us about being thick. And it's even the start of the Sir Mix-a-Lot song. Oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. She looks like one of those rappers' girlfriends. And so I know that for a really long time, we tried to hide our curves. We, like, you know what I mean? Like that just was what it was. I mean, there are other reasons, obviously, but I know that shaming our body, our curves was there for a long time, even though white women were in, you know, the 1800s wearing those padded gears to make it look like they had hips. So I was like, can y'all decide? Just like in the same way that they shame our weaves. And I'm like, but y'all with that tall stuff. Anyways, so it really bothers me because there is never any acknowledgement of like them going from, hey, we want to wear those flat mom jeans, to now we are also like, we also want to claim thickness.
Not the fat mom jeans.
You know which ones I'm talking about.
Jessica Simpson really came through on that.
Really, right? And so, and I don't want this to be like a shaming of bodies. That's not what it was. But it's more like y'all spent centuries shaming us for our bodies. And now y'all are like, us too, we're thick. And you know, I rudely am like, thick where? Exactly. Because I'm watching those busset challenges, because you know, I love me a Black woman, I love them thick, and I'm watching bust challenges, and I'm like, okay, some of y'all, not all, some of y'all get surgery, but y'all still can't bust it. Okay, Khloe Kardashian?
Oh God.
Hey, Khloe?
I can't. I feel like it's so weird because I felt like growing up that like if I wasn't skinny and flat everywhere, that I wasn't going to be attractive to anybody. And then somehow, like 2 years ago, it's like, if you don't have a big booty, if you're not going to Turkey to get your butt lift, then who's even trying to date you? And I was like, where was anyone trying to date me, bro?
No, not Turkey. It's just really, I think, difficult for me because I'm traumatized by how much we were meant to be ashamed of ourselves. And then I think we built this kind of like through social media, through the internet, really, because if you're, you know, a homegirl in a small town with a lot of white people, how do you have access to knowing that other people also, like, you know, are thick and you can love yourself in that way? And so, like, aside from your family, it kind of reminds me of like the idea of like queer celebrity is so important because of where we are geographically. It's important to have that access point of someone that you know that has the same thing as you, that is out there loving it, being proud. And so the no acknowledgement part makes me really upset. And then the claiming of, oh, now you guys are thick. I was like, okay, first of all, y'all thick with a K, very different.
What is the difference, Coko? Can you explain the difference for everybody in the chat? Because there's like thick, okay?
Yeah,
and then there's thick. And I don't care. Every body type is really good. Like, do whatever you want. Be happy and proud of who you are. But don't tell
That's
me
right,
that
Seann. Thick versus thick.
Yeah, thick versus thick, right? Because it's like, if you are just a bigger girl, that doesn't mean you have curves. Okay?
No, it does not. And here's the thing. There's no shame in any game. Do you understand what I'm saying? But the issue is claiming something that a particular group of people was shamed for, when one, you really might not be that, and two, you're claiming it so you can appear cool. And that's some bullshit, because you know what? We were shamed a long time for being thick. Me is thick with one C, but still, right? We were shamed a long time for being in that category. And now, because it's cool, now it's apple bottom jeans.
Boots,
you know
with
what I
the
mean?
fur.
Now it's right. Now it's, yo, let me, you know, right? I was gonna say that Big Sean. Now it's on that ass state. So and that's the thing. So here's the other thing that, like, I don't know that they understand is, if you're in the Black community and you're not thick, you feel a little bit of shame. You're like, yo, I don't quite have it all like stacked up like that. And that's a real thing. So there's a whole kind of like body politics that goes into Black bodies. And yeah, so back to the idea, like, so thick with a CK is not actually, I'm not even talking about big girls. That's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is angles, right? What we were talking about. What I'm talking about is
angle.
What I'm talking about is doing the busted challenge from the front so that we don't know. That's what I'm talking about. And not busting it, right? And you know who was talking about this the other day is, I think, Chloe from Chloe and Halle. She was talking about this, how she was shamed so hard for being thick. And now finally she's like, yo, I'm a thick girl and I'm all about it. But she was like crying, and you know, people on Twitter were like so angry, like, who hurt her? She's like the most precious person, and she really is. So yeah, so I actually tweeted about this the other day, and I'm like having thick thighs is not the same as having a big old booty. Stop taking angles from the front and being like, me too. And I was like, oh, now that it's cool, it's me too. Okay, homegirl.
Yeah, until you know your waist size out of stitches, you don't understand. Okay? Because I used to be like, oh, I'm an 11. But at stitches, I was a 15, because that's not made to go over my butt.
No, and then you had to take in the waist part.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how for a long time, right, manufacturers, like, I think maybe until apple bottoms, and I didn't even get apple bottoms until I went, because, you know, we didn't cross the border like that at that time, until I went to Korea, and there was, because that's where they produced them, so they had the outlet malls with, you know, apple bottom with no S maybe.
Yeah.
But let's talk
Apple
about
bottom.
how apple bottom, right? Because like you've been to Asia, so you know there's a lot of Americans there for the military stations. But
yeah,
let's talk about how we would have to buy jeans, and it would like the waistline would stick out because in order to buy ones that fit over your thighs and your butt and your hips, you had to sacrifice a thicker waistline in order to be able to fit into the ones that fit the rest of your body. Let's talk about that.
buddy. I feel like I invented belts. Like literally, you gotta suck that in.
Yeah, but like it's like go even further. Talk about how the belt you have to fold in that loop.
Don't. I can't. Yo, only real ones know. Like, so yeah, I'm not really pumped about it. Yo, if you want to be taken, if you are taken and whatever, it's just like just acknowledge the fact that that's something that like you kind of have to tread a little lightly on and be a little sensitive about, because now all Black women are like, oh, okay.
That's the ideal body, right? Like if you look at like the Kardashians, well, not all of them, so not Kendall and not Kourtney, but if you look at Kim and Kourtney and Kylie, it is very obvious that they have surgically altered their body to resemble a Black woman.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, 100%.
But then their thighs are like super small. And I'm like, that's not.
Look how we discuss, right? Okay, let's move on to question number 2, because that's like
no shame in any game.
No, I love every body type.
Surgery? I'm into it.
If you want to get, so I want to get plastic surgery so bad. You know what I mean?
What do you want to get?
I want to get my eyebrows lifted a bit, but like, I've been told, like, not like to be like surprised, right? Because I am genuinely always like, for real, bitch. But like, I want it like just a little bit, you know, and like, I want like, I feel like I have a bunch of, so I am a part of the Black culture that doesn't have an under eyelid. And it's like, and nobody understands that that's like something that certain people don't have. And so I don't have an under eyelid. So I have like a lot of wrinkles like right under my eye when I smile, because there's no like under eye, like it's like the bottom of my eye and then like my face. There's no in between. So.
Okay.
Yeah, see, you have the under eyelid. And most people do. Anyway.
That is so, okay, are we talking about this part?
Yeah, like this right under here. So see, if I smile, it's like right here. I don't have an under eyelid. You have the under eyelid, so it just shows your cheek. Anyway.
Right. I am part of the Black culture that is mixed with Asian that has a lot of cheek.
Yeah, and I have high cheekbones too. I have high cheekbones too, but it's still fading in the darkness over here with like the anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, that has been forbidden, and everyone in my family's like, absolutely not. I was like, yo, Botox is kind of cheap. Like, I could probably actually get that.
Does Botox shift that? Is that what Botox would do?
Yeah, Botox would fill it in so that I wouldn't have the wrinkles.
Right. This is why I love Real Housewives of Atlanta, because one of the things that Andy Cohen brought up in one of the episodes was like, what surgery have y'all done? And most of them, I think, actually, I don't know if Cynthia openly talked about this, but most of them, well, Nene talked about the fact that she did her nose, but she was like, I still want my nose to appear Black, though. Like, I still need my nose to look like a Black nose. And I kind of love that. So I love the open conversation about plastic surgery in that group very specifically. Most of them haven't touched their faces, though. You can tell.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone's like, you don't need to touch your face. Well, and it's an insecurity of growing up in like an all-white community, and like feeling like, and I always had like, oh, you know, you don't even have a Black nose, right? So there's always that whole thing where people are like, what are you mixed with? And I was like, well, we could, if you want to pay for that 23andMe, like we can find out.
We can find out.
Like we can find out.
I mean, I don't need to find out. And you know what's very interesting is a lot of people will tell me, well, you have a Black nose. And I'm like, actually, my nose is from my Chinese grandfather. I actually have an Asian nose, which is hilarious.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, it's just the whole, it's because everyone's like, oh, I felt like so long, like the reason why I was like more aesthetically pleasing to the eye was because it's like, oh, you don't have traditionally Black features. And I was like,
right.
This is annoying.
The joys of being criticized and not criticized for what is and what is not Black is, okay.
It's crazy. Let's move on to number 2, because we're gonna switch it.
We are going over time, and I am going to approve this right now. Thank you.
Coko approves this message. Question number 2. In your opinion, how has Black music been appropriated?
Okay. This is a topic. You know what? You really did your research, because these are topics I know very well.
I know.
Okay, so let's talk. There's a couple of areas, right? There is the evolution of music generally. So I remember growing up not understanding that rock and roll was originally ours because I didn't know history. And so growing up in the 80s and the 90s, rock and roll to me appeared to be a white art form. And
one second. Can we run that back? Can you say that again, that beginning statement? You didn't realize that rock and roll was what?
Was ours.
Okay.
Rock and roll was a Black art form, and it originated from Black people, right? And like, I didn't know this. And this is why it's so important to trace things back or to have elders to tell you things, right? Because history will very, very, what's the word? Aggressively leave shit out so that what it appears to be in the future. So I remember, for example, the first time I didn't even know about Jimi Hendrix, because, we didn't have the interwebs then. So it wasn't like, what is the history of rock and roll? And we could look it up. That's not how it was.
And you think they give us the truth?
Right? But I remember the first time, for example, I saw Lenny Kravitz. I ignorant, and I say this very loudly, I was ignorant and thought, oh, I guess he's like into white music, not knowing. And then getting older, or even house music.
Oh, house music.
Not even knowing house music was also Black in its origination. Not knowing, because you see the outcome of it and you're like, sorry, I shouldn't say outcome. You see the evolution of it and you're like, oh, well, this doesn't. And then you see the people who gravitate towards it. You're like, oh, that's not for me. I'm just going to stay over here listening to Outkast. Okay, thanks. And so one of the things that started happening was, and I actually got to thank the rap producers for this, is they started sampling. Remember in the late 90s and early 2000s where they were sampling hard. And when they started sampling, you're like, yo, okay, that guitar riff is, And then like when Outkast started dabbling, like, all of them, right? And you're like, what is this? And then you find out, oh no, this song was in the 1960s or the 70s or the 50s, and it was a Black group. And you're like, my whole life has just shifted. So there's that. And I don't know that I would classify that as appropriation, but more so an evolution of music and who likes it and how they wanted to change it and stuff like that. That's one.
I would say nothing, like I would say it wouldn't be appropriation if it wasn't claimed as like an origination. You know what I mean? So
you mean like white folks claiming that it's originally theirs?
Yeah.
See, I don't know that. Okay, from my experience, I have never heard a white person claim rock and roll to be theirs or house music to be theirs, because I love music. And so when I talk to someone who loves music, like as a peer who loves music, they often know the Black references.
Right.
Shit that I don't even know. They're like, actually, and then they'll, how white people are. They're like 1965 at this festival, and they did. I don't know where they got that knowledge, but yeah. So there's that. But the other side of it that I'm gonna say, and this I think is appropriation, And even though it might be the same, I might be about to prove the same thing, but even though the groups themselves would be like, oh, this is who we listen to, I feel like there's an erasure happening. And so that I will say, from my experience, again, can't speak to, is people like Madonna, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears. So that group of people, again, I don't blame the artist, because if you ask the artist, Britney would be like, yeah, like I'm inspired by Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston, Madonna, of course, right? And Backstreet Boys would be like, we're inspired by, Jodeci and Boyz II Men. But for some reason, that is erased from their conversations. And there's a whole conversation right now on Twitter about whether Britney is inspired by Madonna or Janet. And the answer is both, right? The answer is both. But if you watch Britney, all you see is Janet, because the way she moves, the way she pops, the way she flips her hair, her dance choreography is almost an exact mirror of Janet Jackson. And I feel like what bothers me in this particular section is I find that the white counterpart to the Black artist is always more successful. And it feels like it's because the greater mass are more willing to accept the same music being presented through a white face and a white voice. And that is something that I studied intensely, because I love Jodeci so much. Mm-hmm. And they're not anywhere near as successful as NSYNC. And I'm like, excuse me, who? NSYNC wouldn't even exist without Jodeci, without Devante.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
It's one of the best R&B albums of all time. Yep.
Yes.
Elvis Presley story. Yes. It's Hairspray.
Yes.
It's Hairspray. And it hurts because, like, I watched this happen in real time, and it hurts because even like New Kids on the Block, all their
had a bunch of hits,
right? Is from New Edition. I'm like, y'all just the white, like, you know what I mean? They're not the white version, because nobody can be the white version of Bobby Brown. I'm sorry, but they can't. And it's just, I don't know how else to explain, but when you're witnessing it, it's just hurtful. And when you're listening to, and I'm talking about from a teenage perspective, when you have conversations with people and you're like, this is the same as Boyz II Men, this is the same as NSYNC, like these white singers who belt and stuff, like Kelly Clarkson, like, please. Jennifer Hudson, right? Like, and then what they say is, yeah, but the Black version is too much. And then that goes back to being Thicke.
Okay, hold on.
Too much. Okay, just take a break. I'm just gonna drink now.
Because so what you're saying is exactly what I wanted to talk about. It's not about it's not about being like accepting and like perpetuating like a culture and like music that people don't really know from before. And like, it's the fact that it's being actively capitalized on whenever it's convenient. Whenever it's convenient for them. So you look at Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake went with Timbaland, went and did Justified, and then once he made his money off of Black culture, he's a man of the woods. Sorry?
He can switch over anytime he wants.
Yeah.
Anytime he wants. He can just unbraid his hair and then press
Not unbraid his hair.
And you're just like, well, but if you think about Justin Timberlake's counterpart, because I was always like an R&B and hip hop girl growing up, and I was very intentional with that. If you look at his counterparts, like Usher's R&B career before he started doing like techno stuff, Omarion, like, Tank, Carl Thomas, Mario Winans.
Summer Rain is still one of the most fire songs ever. Like, please don't.
There are countless Black R&B artists that couldn't even that were, honest to God, like way more talented than their white counterparts, who couldn't even get a fraction of that success.
No. But let's talk about let's talk about one person in particular, because we're gonna throw up this picture. Like,
You see now, like just
no.
those are two people we're talking about right here. It's not
It's
just
a
Miley and her tongue
it's a
out.
2-for-1
Right?
special.
It's a 2-for-1 appropriation special.
Not the appropriation special.
Appropriation special. 2-for-1 Okay, first of all, just a side note. Why is your tongue white? Okay, that's another thing.
That's another thing.
But here's the thing about Robin Thicke. That's his name, right? Robin Thicke.
Yeah, Robin Thicke.
Robin Thicke with a CK. Do you remember his very first track? His very first track, the sample was Beethoven. And I think it was called Leave You Alone. And he is a white boy with he had a bob, he had long hair, he had a bob, and he rides through Manhattan on a bike. And I was okay with that because I was just like, okay, you're just singing black music, but you still presenting very much like I'm just a white guy, but I just love R&B. And I'm okay with that. I'm into people keeping their authenticity. And so I'm saying, like, I don't want to say like, oh, white people can't sing R&B, white people can't rap. That's not true. Like, look, like,
yeah, of course not.
Problematic as Eminem is one of the best lyricists just on his play of words of all time. And
yeah, 100%.
like a lot of black folks even acknowledge that. And so when you're looking at someone like Robin Thicke, before we were like, oh, you know what, we're done. Yeah, like his look, like the long hair and the biking and stuff like that. Like I was like, okay, I'm okay with this, you know. And then it became this, and I was like, I'm done. I don't think I listened to any of his albums past that one album.
Oh, you didn't listen to Paulo?
No, I did not.
The biggest
I don't
flop
care
of Billboard history.
I'm not listening to it. I don't care if your songs are good. I'm very stubborn. I was like, I will not press play. Yes, it's good. I will not press play.
How about him getting sued for the song that made him Blurred Lines?
That's right. Who did he steal from in that?
I think it was Marvin Gaye, or I think it was someone that's.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, yeah.
Speaking of that, did you hear about? Not did you hear? Did you watch the Cisco song? Like the YouTube. Vice did like a quick video on the history of thong song and how they came to write it and stuff.
No, but I will say that Cisco's the reason I started going to La Senza and buying thongs. Like straight up, I was like, yo, you can get like 6 of these for $30? Okay.
Loved Dru Hill. I know that first album. That first Dru Hill album.
Steps.
That album, top to bottom, I know. We were
so
5 steps from eternity.
We were, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, but okay. So let's talk about Miley Cyrus for a second. I think she has acknowledged, like, and I think when she came out with her more actually, I don't know if she's acknowledged. Let me not say that. I don't know for sure.
She acknowledged she was going through something.
That's right. But, and then people were like, so we're just a phase like that? We're just a phase.
Oh, so you were going through blackness and you lost yourself? Like, what are you talking about?
But what I didn't like, if I remember very correctly, if I can recall, let me just use lawyer words. If I can recall, I remember what I didn't like is the claiming of blackness as like a phase of her being wild and experimental.
That's the thing.
I'm like, this is our whole ass culture.
Yeah.
Excuse me, bitch.
Yeah. Sorry, I was acting out. I was acting black. You already know I'm a country singer at heart. Well, sorry, what?
And she has a great voice as a country singer. Like, it was so unnecessary.
But then she went back to country and just like, oh yeah.
She went back to country. Yeah.
She went back to country. She busted at Justin Timberlake. Maybe they should have a duet album called Appropriation. Like, I don't even understand.
Oh, Appropriation, the LP. I fucking love Seann so much right now. That is Robin Thicke. That is the Robin Thicke I do. I'm switching up that. You see now? You see? And this is an R&B song. I was like, you know what? I'm cool with this.
Oh my god.
That was a precious moment where Sean Murray shows why he is so precious and why we love him. That was so good.
Yo, shout out to Sean Murray, just killing me right now.
That was so good.
Not the unmoisturized hair.
Didn't even warn us. Just dropped it. Didn't even warn us. He was like, "Here you go. Here you go."
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Okay, let's move on to question number 3. I'm done.
Wow, we have one more question.
Oh.
All right, let's do this.
Okay, question number 3. What do you believe to be the issues, if any, with Black people, with people using Black terminology / slang if they are not Black? I came to play for the finale. Okay, I came to play.
I know. You came to drag. Okay, let's okay. Let's talk about the N-word. No to the N-word. Never say it. Right? Just don't. Just don't. I was looking at this video of lovely Mimi, who I don't know who she is, but I saw a video. She's an Asian woman who lives in Florida, I think, and she's on Atlanta. She's on one of the Love and Hip Hop.
Florida. Oh God.
And she says the N-word. And she says it so fast that you know it's part of her everyday vocabulary. And then she catches herself and she says, "Oh, sorry." And she starts laughing. And then her apology video, I put the word apology. Her apology video consisted of her saying that she doesn't like to use that word in public as a non-Black person. In public.
Okay.
Which means when we're not here, you're steadily dropping it. So there's there's the N-word, and that's just a big door. But what I'm going to say
before you continue, I just need to address something here, because this actually this really pisses me off, and I really am going to bring this up, and it's a problem. If you are not Black, period, okay? If you're not Black, you cannot in any capacity drop the N-bomb. Just because you've experienced your own different types of oppression, it does not mean you get to claim an oppression you've never been a part of. You just don't get to do it. Because when it comes down to it, you are going to be the first person to understand the colorism of this Spanish person's going to get a job over this Black person. You're going to be okay with it. You make derogatory terms about Black people in your own culture to call them your own version of the N-word, and then you drop that word when you're fighting with your Black boyfriend to make it derogatory. It's not okay. You cannot drop the N-bomb ever. I don't want to hear, "Oh, I'm in. It's in a song, so if you say it, it's okay." It's not okay. I'm not trying to hear the whole "Oh, well, if you guys say it to each other, then why can't I say it?" It's just not okay. It doesn't have to be explained. I don't have to explain it to you. That's it. That's it. Why do you want to have the opportunity to be derogatory? I don't understand what you're fighting for. Don't do it. Yeah. It really pisses me off.
Well, it's because it goes back to Thicke music, because it's cool, right? Oh, Jay-Z are saying it like there's a whole song, but that's the genius of the song. It's only we can sing along.
We both just did that.
That's the genius of the song. Is you can't quite sing along. We can.
You can't quite.
You can't. You just can't. Now, this is what I'm gonna say about the N-word. This is something that I think people really, really don't understand what that word
where it derives.
Us reclaiming it, we still know what the fuck it means. You know what I mean? And we are trying to rise above the hate that comes with that word. Now, I know there are different camps. Oprah, for example, is I will not, and I know, and I remember her discussion with Jay-Z, where Jay-Z's well, it means XYZ in the hood, da da da. And then Oprah's but that word is rooted in hate. I understand
Mhm.
both perspectives. I understand both perspectives.
For
Now,
sure.
the thing is, it's interesting because so everybody knows like my mom is Chinese, my mom is Asian, she's Chinese, and I'm Black, right? I I am Asian culturally, but I walk around the world as a Black woman. Ain't nobody going, yo, she's Asian. No,
No.
like you know what I mean? I'm a Black woman, and I'll tell you, like an experience that I think all people that are mixed with something whose parent is not Black might understand is I remember one time as a grown ass woman, not even as a kid, like as a grown ass woman, it was a driving incident and this white man called me the N-word. And it's one of those experiences where as powerful as you can be, as much self-care, as much power to the people, as much work that you've done on yourself, when that word gets dropped by a non-Black person towards you as an act of hate, you are silenced immediately. There is nothing I can say. I was just like, obviously that was in my face. I think I was more upset and in shock. And I remember talking about it, just telling my mom this happened. And no matter how much she was like, I understand, it wasn't quite, I understand. And I just had to hang up and call my Black friends,
Yeah.
because my dad's passed. So I had to call my Black friends and just be like, you just don't get it. And the reason why I bring this up is not to, like, my mom is a very kind and empathetic person. So it's not
Of
about
course, yeah.
her, but it's about the idea that even when your child is Black, you don't fucking understand what that word means to us. And
Yeah.
so you just don't get to say it. Like, you don't get it. And so just stop saying it.
Yeah.
And I know
Don't
I'm like almost half laughing, and I think it's a defense mechanism, but it's like, you just don't understand what it means when it's being used as a weapon. And like, to me, when non-Black people say it, even when they're singing along, it feels to me, and I can't speak for any other Black person, but it feels to me like they're going, haha, I can use it too, right? Like, almost like just a little jab. Is that okay? Is it?
Yeah,
That's
no,
how
it's
it
not
feels.
okay.
It still feels like a slice of hate crime. That's sort of, I don't know how else to describe it.
You
but
know
it feels
what?
like a slice of hate crime.
And the problem is that a lot of people that use it, for example, when I first started dating, like my partner, who
Yeah.
because he grew up in the
He looks like
suburbs.
Robin Thicke, the old school Robin
Yeah,
Thicke.
right. Because he grew up in the suburbs around one Black friend, he was like, oh, well, he didn't mind when I said it. I was like, because he was being cornered into a situation where it's like, do I want friends or do I not want friends? So I'm going to let a lot of things slide. And now you're in a situation where you're dating somebody that's like, absolutely not. And you're not realizing that you were silencing your friend the whole time. He wasn't okay with it.
That's
so
right.
That's what you need to understand. A lot of people, a lot of Black people put a lot of things to the side because it's easier than confronting the issue and being confronted by a bunch of people over something that only you can explain, where everybody else relates to what they relate to, and you're the only person that doesn't relate to it. So don't put people in that position. That's it.
Yeah. And I think that's something, like, to bring that up, like silencing, I think I think I can speak for you, I can speak for most Black people. There are moments where we think, is this a battle worth fighting right this moment?
Yeah.
And what you don't understand, and I mean they as a non-Black people, is that is an act of self-abandonment. So we are constantly being asked in any way, shape, or form to choose between our Blackness and our dignity as Black people and whether or not we're going to defend that. So something like, oh, I'm not Black, but I'm going to say the N-word, and say you're at a party, you're like, okay, is this a moment where I have to start this whole thing about, like, it's a constant, like, is this a battle worth fighting for? And what fucking sucks about that battle worth fighting for is not worth fighting for means that we are self-abandoning.
Yeah.
And I think that's something people don't, like, they just don't get. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, choose racism over us. Okay, so you're asking me to self-abandon.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, the thing is that I'm not asking anybody to, like, it's not like now I look at you differently for the rest of your life. And it's like, I just want people to understand that that's the way it's happening. Everything can be forgiven. Everything can be like unlearned. And like, you can grow and learn slowly at your own pace as long as you're trying. It's
But
not,
you have to be willing to.
It's if you're not willing to try, then why do I have to like keep telling the same narrative? It's like, I'm already putting myself in a position to try to change the narrative, and you don't want to change it because you're like, well, if I could do it before, then what's like, it's like when it comes to this, it's like evolution doesn't exist. When it comes to anything else, so it's like you can be Thicke, but you can't stop saying the N-word in songs. It can't be both.
So I'm gonna say something about like, so I know the N-word is like a heavy, like a very loaded word. So I'm gonna use another like other expressions that I've heard white people say that I'm like, this is not for you. This is not for you. And honestly, when I watched the Busset Challenge, I'm like, this is not for you. I think one of the things that like people don't understand about when we say something like this is not for you is there are things that we've had to do as a means of self-celebrating. Because we are asked to self-abandon so often, we are trying to, because Black people, we are joyful people across the globe. We try our best. We are about community. We're about that village. We try our best to rise above in terms of like keeping our spirits up. And when we have those little things that's what we're trying to do, and y'all just be like, me too, I can say it. No, stop. We're just trying to celebrate being Black. Like, is that okay?
Please, yo.
Like, let us be.
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Like, just So I'll use a word like sis. By sis, I mean SIS. Like, hey, sis. We acknowledge each other across the globe as sisters and brothers. My sister, my brother. And that's part of like, the word Black, okay, we say we're going to launch into this politically, right? The word Black is not a monolith. It doesn't mean that me and you have the exact same experience. That's not what it means. But the word Black is a social construct. And that means because you can be like from any country in Africa, because Africa is a continent with different countries. And you can be in any country in Africa and be Black. You can be African American and be Black. You can be Caribbean and be Black. This is how I see it, right? Because there are other Black folks who see it, who define it very differently, and I acknowledge that. So the word Black is a social construct because it means that, so people in Africa, like different countries in Africa, like Nigeria versus Cote d'Ivoire versus Burkina Faso versus South Africa versus Zimbabwe, have different cultures. They behave differently, right? They're like, oh, you're Ivoirien. Oh, you're, Sudanese. Oh, you're Egyptian. Like, yes, there are Black Egyptians. People don't know that. Same thing in the Caribbean. Oh, you're Bajan. Oh, you're Jamaican. Oh, you're Trini. But the reason why we say the word Black as a collective is because once we encounter white folks, it's like, oh, you're Black.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a social construct, because it doesn't speak to the individual cultural experiences and differentiations that we have, but it groups us all into one. And then there's a collective Black experience, such as police brutality. Yo, they don't care if you're Sudanese versus South African versus Cuban versus from Atlanta versus from Tennessee. They're just like, you're Black. Right?
I'm just thinking of how funny it would be that if they're like, show me your ID. Oh, no, we don't even try to beat these people.
Oh, right? They don't give a fuck. And so because of that, we speak to the collective Black experience because of how we are otherized as Black. And I think, listen, I spent a lot of time studying this. So,
yeah, no, that's good though.
And then we have this, like, I don't want to say subcategory. It's like, then we start talking and we're like, oh, you're from here. Oh, this is how we do things over here. Da, da, da. And then we differentiate that. And so again, to the collective, those are the things that we try to create, to share from the social struggle of the social, like, because of the social construct of you are Black. And so things like calling each other sis or yo brother, like, you know, da 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 da, or something like the Busset challenge, it is very specific to regions, to people, and it is a share, like, we are trying to, like, yo, I know nothing about the Busset challenge because I don't have that kind of ass, but I appreciate it. I'm like, yo, these women are, you know, and so it's just really difficult to then hear like a little white girl be like, hi sis. I'm like, no, we are not. We are not. No. And and for me very specifically, and this is a very interesting thing about interacting with white folks, is you feel mean correcting them almost. I feel like we're constantly being made to feel like, but why, like, why is it such a big deal? Just let me say sis. And you're like, again, same thing with Thicke, same thing with the music. We are asked to self-abandon. We are asked to abandon a culture that we have created to kind of like love ourselves and each other. It's
and then it's like, oh, I get it. You're super progressive. You're super left. It's like, no, I'm just super not racist, and I'd like you to not be too. That's it. Like, it has nothing to do with my political views.
Yeah. And you know, and I'm going to say something like really quickly, like, for example, there's a rise in anti-Asian violence, right? There's a rise in anti-Asian violence.
Did not help that because of like that.
And COVID did not help that. And guess what? Nobody fucking verifies if you're from China before they do that. They don't care if you're Filipino, if you're Korean, if you're Japanese, if you're from Malaysia, Singapore, they're like, you're Asian, we're in it. All of these hate words.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by the word Black. They don't check. They're not like, yo, so which girls are you?
Sorry.
So like, and that's why it's anti-Black, you know, racism, anti-Asian. It's not like anti-Chinese, because you know what? Here's something that I am gonna say is half of those people not only don't fucking care, they don't even care to differentiate where you're from. They don't care. They're just like, you're Black, you're Asian, this is the bubble. They're not like, oh, you're Korean? Okay, that's not really where it came from. Never mind.
My bad. I love Seoul. Like, no.
Right?
No one's doing that.
No, I love, you know, anyways. But it's just infuriating, and it's very difficult. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is, like, literally on a day-to-day, this is something that we have to confront. There is no breaks. There are no breaks. There are no breaks. There's no, hey, here's a Black vacation, and by Black vacation I mean a vacation from being Black. No.
Yeah, there's none. No break. There is none, and that's the truth.
Which is why we have cultural, like, you know, Black culture, so to speak, as a general thing, so that we can like have pieces of joy, like Black joy, in this kind of like difficult ass world. Like, you know.
100%. I mean, I did have a bonus question, but I feel like we don't even need to really. Do you want to actually address it?
I mean,
okay. You better be paying Seann some extra dollars.
Seann, I will pay you that. I will pay you your hourly.
I'm just like, don't put that shit on me, okay?
You know.
Seann, remember I tried to give you an escape, okay? Remember me.
Yeah.
Bonus question. Where in your life have you seen Black culture appropriated with seemingly no consequence? So I mean, like, for you in an everyday setting, not in like a global scale of things that you've witnessed, but like directly in your life.
Oh man. Oh, it's not hard, but I'm trying to think of like I don't think I can think of a specific incident. but I can speak to like a day-to-day. I think day-to-day what I witness on Instagram and Twitter, and comedians and sketch artists, I see appropriation of Blackness on a day-to-day, and I feel like the people are deemed cool, the people are deemed edgy, as opposed to being like, stop acting like that. That's not who you actually are. Right? Now, I will say, like, one of the things that's hard, and I want to speak to this, is if you are a non-Black person who grew up in Black neighborhoods with Black friends, in a Black high school, I acknowledge that it's difficult to be like, but that's how all my friends talk. And like, so for example, like if you're a white guy who grew up, you know, in an area with Black folks and you have Black friends and you're like, hey, what's up? Are you the only one who's supposed to be like, what's going on, Bob? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
what's going on, Bob?
I don't know. I don't know that that's fair either, right? Like, so I acknowledge that there are, like, you know, because when Black folks make fun of you, ooh, that's hard. So you don't want to be the white guy who, you know, for a lack of a better term, like acts white by being like, well, this weekend we went skiing. Well, Black folks ski too, but you know, like we went to the cottage and we, you know,
you had to use the cottage, eh? You had to use the cottage.
So you don't want to be that. Like there is, especially when you're a teenager, right? It is difficult to, like, I would acknowledge that it would be difficult for any person who's not Black, who grows up a lot or has like a lot of Black friends, like predominantly they have Black friends. Like, I want to acknowledge that they would not be able to separate themselves. And also, Black culture has made it into mainstream, like erased from Blackness, but made it into mainstream. So there's a lot of terminology, there's a lot of like sayings and stuff that they don't know originate from Black folk, like tea, shade, not nah, like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, so I was telling you about this, how I had put a suggestion in a comment and there was no Black person in the space, not in the comments, not in the show. And I wrote, oh, not like, and the person read it like, not no. Oh wow, no, not that. And I was like, oh,
not misinterpretation.
Not misinterpretation. I was like, oh, they don't know what it means. In 2 years they will. In 2 years they'll made it into.
In 2 years it will be theirs. It would never have been ours.
Right? But I think to me it's like it's that thing. It's very nuanced. There is some gray area. Like, I want to acknowledge that, and I just think on a day-to-day, I think Instagram and Twitter is where people can really like remake themselves. So people be like, I do squats, I'm thick, and I'm like, but you're
sorry, the biggest eye roll.
Like, I was like, that's not. It's very infuriating for me to read sentences like that. And very kind people all across the board, like, not everybody's mean, like, you know, but people don't really know how to separate themselves from, I think, you know, white women, really. Like, I think, like, it's just, it seems like they like to use terminology and then not acknowledge that it comes from Black women or Black men or Black folks, and then not understand the hardship that a Black person might have gone through with that exact word that all of a sudden is very cool to them. So I follow a lot of, you know, people who are just like, I'm just gonna be like people who are like, oh, I'm thick and I got a big butt, and I was like, but you don't, and you have like, and it's cool, and that's why you want to say something like that, but you have no idea what it means, like, and I'm not saying all of them, because there are some like non-Black people who do have big butts, like, and who do have that hardship, and guess what? As someone who, like, again, has a mixed, like, I have a mixed background, and I have people who are non-Black in my family, and when non-Black people have big butts, guess what they called? Guess what they get called? Ah, you're like a Black girl. That's what is said to them. So Blackness is still used as a means to diminish people with bodies that might look closer to Black folks. So it's very interesting to me when people who don't have those things are now wanting to claim it in order to appear cool. I'm like, you have no idea what the struggle comes, even for non-Black people who have those, you know, for example, body parts, you have no idea what it feels like to be Asian, and, you know, because, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms, but to be like, oh, your booty's like a Black girl, it's not meant to be a fucking compliment at that, you know, in those stages. It's meant to be an insult. And
if you got a booty like a Black girl for me, come through, you know what I mean?
Right. It's taken a long time, I think, for us to be able to openly embrace different parts of our Blackness, you know, the kink in our curls, our bodies, our booties, our thick thighs, you know, our breasts, like, and I speak to, like, just the body, because I think one thing that people don't understand is that Black bodies have experienced a whole lot of violence through history. Our bodies were used as test subject. Our bodies were used for torture. Like, our bodies have withstood, that's the tense, have withstood a lot. And I think it's taken us a lot to be able to overcome that and just love ourselves. Like, do y'all understand that? So when we are trying to just celebrate ourselves and y'all fucking over there thinking it's cool and you just want to take it, you don't understand that diminishes. It does diminish our joy. It does. It does to me.
100%. No, I totally agree. And I will just add to that, because I really agree with everything that you just said there. And for me, it's like, for me right now, it's just it's the Black history shows with allies of Black people on it. Like, there aren't enough Black people to be on the show. That's what it is for me. That's what it is for me. It's not like this is not like an LGBTQIA, like, you have an ally in a situation. It's like a situation where it's like, this is a month specifically for Black people.
Yeah.
Shortest month of the year, by the way. Don't worry about that.
Shortest month, yeah.
And it's about there still being like a white host or a non-Black person on there that is just really cool with Black people. It's that of you. If you're taking money as not a Black person during Black History Month on shows for Black history, you really need to look inside yourself. It's super whack.
Yeah. So I'm going to speak to this. I'm going to speak to this very poignantly for a second, because I run Black and Funny. We're doing 4.5 this year, and there are instances. I will speak about this very honestly, and I'll own it, right? There are instances where there have been non-Black people at Black and Funny, and there are two reasons, okay? One reason is because there are groups that contain Black people and non-Black people where I want to elevate that artist, and this is their playing group. Because when it comes to sketch and improv, who you play with is you form a bond, and that is very special. It's a very special kind of like chemistry you're showing on stage. So I will say that there have been non-Black sketch troops and improv troops other than Coko and Daphne, because Coko and Daphne is really the only Black troupe in.
Shout out to Coko and Daphne doing the damn thing.
Like, like all Black troupe, you know. So there's that. In Canada, I'm very sure in Canada. So there's that, right? And if you want to celebrate that artist very specifically, and that is the only art form that they do, I don't think it's fair to pluck them out and be like, well, here, you now have to do a whole sketch show with somebody else, even though this is your working partner. So there is that. Now, with that being said, I will say that the few non-Black people that have participated in that have been very respectful. The sketch and improv troops have been very respectful, and have been very like, some of them don't even say their names, right? They're just like, I'm an ally. Thank you. Thank you. I am here to support this Black woman, and that is what I am here to do. Don't worry about me. I am here to just echo her. I am in the back. And I have to give such huge, immense respect for that, because I'm like, yeah, you recognize it's Black and funny. The whole audience is Black. They're not here for you, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. But I have made the mistake of putting a non-Black person, and that's why I always check, and it's such an uncomfortable topic, but you got to do what you got to do. I have put one non-Black performer, and I'm talking about solo performer, because sketch and stand-up is very different, but I have put one non-Black performer, and it's my fault because I didn't fucking check, because I thought they were from a different background than they were.
Hold on, though. Is it your fault, or do they feel comfortable without even you having to double check that they could be on that show because they think they represent a culture they don't?
So
whose fault is it?
Because I don't know. Because
did they accept it though?
They did accept it and they performed.
So that's the problem.
There has only been one. And I will say there has only been one, and I got called out for it from another Black comedian. It was like, how dare you? And I was like, wait a minute, yo, it took a conversation a year later for someone to be like, yo, I always was very upset that you put a non-Black person in the show. They mistakenly thought I put them as a headliner. They were not a headliner.
Yo, who is it? Drag them.
No. I'm not going to. But
it was a good try.
It was a good try. But this was a performer who performed in a lot of Black spaces. So I thought, I don't present Black, but neither does Kamala Harris's sister, right? So I was just like, right? So I was just like, yo, I was dragged privately for that. Privately, and I took it. I took the L because it was I viewed it as my mistake, and it was one of those things where I made the mistake of assuming certain things because of other things. Now I will say that there are people that I didn't know, and I straight up just asked, and these were like other artists that I was like, "Are you Black?" And they're like, "No, I'm not. I'm blank, blank, and blank, or I'm this." And I was like, thank you very much, because I wanted to add you in Black and funny. And they're like, I'm not Black. And I respected that so much because they were just like, I'm not Black. I'm not taking up the space.
But did they say that before or after you asked them? So if you were to ask them and not ask them if they were Black, would they have taken the space?
I don't think so. Because my show is called Black and Funny. So they would not have felt comfortable. No, not these two specific people that I'm thinking about. It was only two. They were very like, no, I'm not even gonna come near that. No.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, much respect and love to them. They know who they are. And they were very just like, I'm not taking up this space. But
shout out to those people. I'm about it. I'm about it.
People.
Straight up.
And one of them gets mistaken for mixed Black all the time. Yeah. And so those were my mistakes. And that one time I didn't check because I made an assumption based on other spaces that the person has performed in, based on how I thought their background was. And you're right, it is the responsibility of the non-Black person to be like, hey, your show's called Black and Funny. Like, maybe I shouldn't do this because I didn't know. I made an assumption. But I never...
It's on the responsibility, for sure, you're going to make your own assumptions. It's on both of you, but it's mainly on the person that's accepting something. Just because it's like they've been in a situation where they think that they're an exception, and through that exception, they're appropriating the culture and they're using it to their advantage and monetizing off of something that they know that they're not. And that is the problem. And they get too comfortable in those situations. And that's what perpetuates this narrative constantly throughout these Black History Month shows, where it's like, I booked mainly Black people, but I'm the host. Or I booked mainly Black people and this person's girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or whatever. And there's always an exception. There's always an exception. But there's not an exception.
I still say I have no excuse. But that year I was quite desperate because I think I had booked anybody who was bookable and everybody else was too busy. Because, you know, that is our working month. So everybody else. But so I take responsibility on my end. I will, you know, it's so weird. Like, as a Black person, I have to check whether or not you're Black so that you can do Black and Funny, as if the show is not called Black and Funny. Like, it's such a fucked up thing. Like, if you are not Black, you should just say, I'm not Black.
Yeah, one could wish. We can only hope.
We can only hope. So I will always try to do my due diligence from now on. But I will say that, like, in sketch and improv, it is very difficult to, there are working Black artists who don't perform with Black artists. And I don't know that it's fair to exclude them year after year because their working partners or whatever is not Black. And I want those people present because the point of Black and Funny is to showcase sketch and improv very specifically because there are very little Black folks in it. And so if that's what I got to do to show, to show the greatness, Black, that's what I got to do. But when it comes to stand up and storytelling, there's no fucking excuse. There's a lot of Black people in there.
I think that's something that we'll have to open up with on the next season of Quarantine, because it's like, why can you only find a person that's non-Black to be your partner? Why is this the issue? We kind of got into the whole thing, like, why do people not do performing arts? Why do they already have the like stigma that they're not going to be accepted or have to work harder? That's a whole other conversation that we're going to have on the next season of Quarantine, y'all. This has been so much fun.
I'm gonna say one quick thing before you do your outro. There are also artists who are Black who don't look Black and people don't know they're Black, and that's another fucked up thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember one time I did a show and Seann, I'll just say his name because he's one of the greatest stand-up and storytellers of all time.
Straight up, like, I love Seann.
Did you know? I think he's from
Eritrea. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, I'm Black, you know? And I was like, I was at the theater where it's very long and I was in the back and I did a full 180 going, oh, and then, you know, I've booked Seann on Black and Funny, but had he not said that, I might not have booked that.
Also, shout out to Seann, one of the greatest people, one of my favorite people. Straight up has ridden, like, will ride for me no matter what. If I don't get booked on shit, he's out there telling everybody from mountaintops, like, that's fucking whack. I'm looking at like, he does not care what people think about him. And when he's saying whatever he does, Seann's a ride or die. Shout out to Seann. He'll be on the next season of Quarantine for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's been Quarantine, the season finale. I'm so happy that you were able to be on the show. Please donate to the show, baddogtheater.com/quarantine. We hope you've learned a lot. This is not like an attack. It's an open conversation that I'm happy that we're able to have, and I'm happy that I have the platform to have. And I think it's a very necessary conversation to have, to be able to move forward with something that is going to be able to change things for the better. So thank you, Coko, for being on the show. Big ups to Seann Murray getting paid double time.
Yeah. Just big up to Seann Murray, period.
Big up to Seann Murray.
Seann Murray, Adonis Charlie, and Connor Lowe, three of the greatest. Right now, we're calling them live stream technicians of all times.
But yeah, we appreciate y'all. I've had so much fun doing Quarantine on Bad Dog TV. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There's so many great shows on here. Season 2 is coming up with a bunch of new shows. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you lock it in every time you see a notification for a Bad Dog TV show. Make sure you donate, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.